Welcome to this explainer. Look, we've all been there, right? Staring at a progress bar, imagining the agonizingly slow wait of downloading a massive file that's just creeping along at a snail's pace. It's the absolute worst. You watch the estimated time jump from 2 hours to 4 hours to, no way, 3 days. Well, today, we are completely demystifying torrents. We're going to break down exactly how torrents work and how they transfer data, uncovering the sheer power of decentralized file sharing to see how we finally solved this massive digital headache.
50 gigabytes. Just picture it. Imagine you want to download a massive 50 gigabyte file, maybe a beautiful 4K movie, a huge modern video game, or a hefty open source Linux operating system. Normally, you're grabbing all of that heavy data from a single centralized server located, somewhere halfway across the world. And that poor server, it has to send the entire massive file to thousands, sometimes millions of users at the exact same time. When too many people hit download on a 50 gig file, the server just gets absolutely overloaded. Everything grinds to a halt, and honestly, for the people hosting it, the server costs absolutely skyrocket.
So, in the traditional download model, you've got this one single server acting as a massive, frustrating bottleneck. If that server goes down, well, nobody gets the file. But torrent technology, it completely flips the script. Instead of relying on one struggling, overloaded server, the torrent download model connects many peers together, making the network incredibly strong. You're actually downloading small pieces of the file from many different people all at once. In this brilliantly designed ecosystem, the crowd itself basically becomes the server.
Okay, let's dive into this. Before we can understand exactly how torrents transfer these massive files so efficiently, we gotta know what a torrent actually is. A torrent file is simply a tiny file that contains information about a shared file, but, and this is absolutely crucial, none of the actual data itself. Think of a torrent file exactly like a pirate's treasure map. The map doesn't hold the physical gold, it just gives you the precise mathematical directions on where to find it. When you open a torrent using a BitTorrent client, like QBTorrent or Transmission, that's when the real hunt, the actual file transfer process kicks off. So, what exactly is written on this digital treasure map? Well, it contains a few key clues for your torrent client. It tells your software the exact name of the file being shared and its total size. It also details exactly how that entire massive file has been meticulously sliced up into tiny, manageable pieces. And most importantly, it gives you the precise info needed to find other real-world users on the internet who are currently holding those pieces and sharing them.
Section 1. Welcome to P2P networking.
Now, this is the massive paradigm shift that makes the whole thing possible. In a peer-to-peer or P2Peer network, everyone who is downloading is also, at the same time, acting as a source. Instead of one single server desperately trying to serve everyone, imagine 1,000 people helping distribute the file to each other. The coolest part is that every single participant, known as a peer, can both upload and download data simultaneously. If 1,000 people are trying to get the exact same file, they're all dynamically sharing the pieces they already have. The network actually, kind of magically, gets stronger and faster as more users join in.
Section 2. The giant puzzle, pieces and parallel downloads. And this brilliantly illustrates the core mechanic of how the data actually transfers. Because torrent clients, they don't just pull down an entire file from start to finish in one straight line like a traditional download. Imagine you've got a 1 gigabyte file. Your torrent client doesn't download one huge, heavy block, it splits it into, say, 1,000 tiny manageable pieces. When you start your download, your computer reaches out and requests different pieces from different peers. Peer A in Tokyo sends piece 12, Peer B in London sends piece 348, and Peer C in New York sends piece 721. All these tiny puzzle pieces arrive simultaneously from different peers all over the world. Your client then just snaps them all together into one giant completed puzzle. This parallel downloading from multiple sources at once, that is exactly what creates those incredibly fast transfer speeds.
But, a huge question naturally arises here. How do all these completely separate, random computers actually find each other on the vast internet? Well, this is where the concept of a tracker comes into play. A tracker is essentially a digital matchmaker. It's a server that doesn't hold the file itself, but simply maintains a master list of all the IP addresses of the users currently sharing that specific file. Your torrent client calls up the tracker, says, hey, who has this movie or this software? Gets a list of peers back, and then connects directly to them to start grabbing those puzzle pieces.
But wait, what happens if that central matchmaking tracker goes down, crashes, or gets blocked? Well, modern torrents are incredibly resilient thanks to trackerless discovery methods like distributed hash tables, or DHT, and peer exchange, known as PEX.
These are fully decentralized methods that let peers talk directly to each other without any middleman. Think of DHT like a massive global game of telephone where everyone holds a tiny fraction of a giant phone book. If you need to find someone, you ask your neighbor, who asks their neighbor, routing through the network until you find the exact peer who has what you need. Because of this brilliant distributed phone book, even if the central matchmaking server completely vanishes off the face of the internet, the swarm of users can still find each other and keep the file transfer going seamlessly.
Section 3. The classroom, Seeders and Leechers.
Let's shift our focus to the actual people participating in this network. We can use a pretty relatable classroom analogy to understand the two main technical roles you'll encounter in any torrent swarm. First up, let's define a seeder. A seeder is a user who has 100% of the complete file and bravely leaves their torrent client open to keep sharing it with others. Think of the seeder exactly like a teacher in a classroom who holds the single, complete master copy of the textbook. Obviously, the more teachers or seeders you have in the room sharing their knowledge, the healthier and faster the network becomes for everyone else who wants to learn.
On the flip side, we have the leecher. A leecher is simply a user who's still actively downloading pieces of the file. In our classroom analogy, these are the students frantically copying pages from the teacher. But here's a truly surprising and brilliant fact about torrents. Even while these students are copying pages, meaning even while they are still downloading, they are actively uploading the individual pages they've already received to other students. You don't have to wait until you have the whole book to start sharing what you've got. As soon as a leecher verifies a single piece of the puzzle, boom, they instantly become a mini source for that specific piece.
Let's move to and see how this builds into a remarkably secure and flawless system. Because look, you're downloading random puzzle pieces from total strangers on the internet, right? So you need absolutely strict quality control. You have to ensure someone isn't sending you a broken piece, or worse, a malicious virus masquerading as your file. When pieces arrive simultaneously, your client mathematically calculates a unique cryptographic fingerprint, called a hash, for every single piece. It runs the data through a complex algorithm to generate a specific string of letters and numbers. If that fingerprint perfectly matches the expected value written on our original treasure map, awesome, the piece is accepted. But if there's even a single pixel out of place, the fingerprint completely changes. That mismatch means the data was corrupted, broken, or tampered with, and the piece is instantly rejected and safely downloaded again from someone else. It's literally an automated, mathematically uncrackable quality control checkpoint.
Which brings us to the absolute core reason why this technology is so revolutionary. When more people join a torrent, more upload capacity becomes available. It's incredibly simple yet totally profound. Unlike a traditional server that slows down to an agonizing crawl when 1,000 people show up to download the same thing, a torrent network actually speeds up. The more demand there is, the more people are pulling pieces, which means the more people are sharing pieces. It creates this completely self-sustaining distribution system where massive demand actually fuels the massive supply.
And honestly, here's why this matters so much in the real world, way outside of just sharing standard files. Massive open source projects, like the incredibly popular Ubuntu operating system, completely rely on BitTorrent. Every time a new version of Ubuntu drops, millions of people want to download that heavy multi-gigabyte file on day one. Instead of this nonprofit organization paying millions of dollars for astronomical amounts of server bandwidth, the community helps share the load. They use this exact peer-to-peer sharing to completely bypass those massive hosting costs. It's literally people helping people keep the internet fast and accessible.
So we've seen exactly how torrents work and how they transfer data, turning thousands of individual computers into one giant, unified, self-sustaining network. We've gone from relying on fragile central servers to empowering the crowd through digital treasure maps, matchmakers, and mathematical puzzle pieces. Which leaves us with a final, incredibly exciting question to think about. If peer-to-peer networks can completely transform how we share massive files, saving vast amounts of money and internet bandwidth, what other massive, centralized systems could decentralization revolutionize next? It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? One that is actively shaping our digital future. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning how the internet really works, and I'll catch you in the next one.